Hello, my good viewers. Mr. E here, returning from the cold winter months and coming to you from SLOPTIDE News Network, your most trusted source for all things Darktide and, of course, Slop. And today we are doing a wrap-up of 2025, a post by Fat Shark Julia on the official Fat Shark forums, coming to you in a timely manner on the third week of January. We're going to be looking back at everything that came out in 2025 and then also getting a few tantalizing teases towards what is going to be coming our way in 2026. Now, if you want to stay up to date to the minutes with everything that comes out in 2026 and get insights on what might be around the corner by my best assumptions, you should definitely subscribe to the channel. And by extension, SLOPTIDE News Network. Thank you very much for your patronage. Now let's get underway here. As I said today, I'm going to be summarizing everything that Fat Shark Julia posts here, talking about the major content releases of 2025, and then giving insights into what I think we might be able to expect in 2026. Let's first start with the four major updates: Nightmares and Visions, Battle for Tertium, Bound by Duty, and No Man's Land. So many of you might recognize that these are the four major updates of the year, and many of you might also recognize that this is not a common trend until this year. 2025 was the first year where Fat Shark really locked into the one update every quarter model. Previously to 2025, in 2024, we actually didn't quite have that really hard and set in stone. We really only started that with the third update of that year, or the fall update of the year, with Unlocked and Loaded, and since then they have really been firing on the all cylinders and getting those updates out quarterly, which I think is great in terms of setting expectations for your players, that you will have a large update every couple months, every 3 months or so with every season, and then you'll have minor tweaks and updates in the middle. So I think they're doing very well on that front. What my criticism here would be is that I believe there could be more content put in each of these updates. I gather that they are sort of getting all of their wherewithals around them and getting their ducks in a row so they can push for this year, hopefully. But yeah, last year felt, though there was a lot more content than in 2024, it did feel a little bit anemic on some fronts, which I'll talk about in a second. If you are new to the game and perhaps haven't been updated on what came out with each of these updates, Nightmares and Visions came out back in March of 2025. That had an Ogryn rework, as well as the introduction of the game mode Mortis Trials. Battle for Tertium introduced the Arbites, the new class. This was announced at Warhammer Skulls during that year, and this was in June. It also had an overhaul of the leveling progress and the mission board. And then Bound by Duty had overhauls to the talent trees and some of the functions of the Zealot, the Veteran, and the Psyker, and this also brought another map for that Mortis Trials mode. And then finally, No Man's Land introduced an operation map, a shorter operations map called No Man's Land, and then we also got that Hive Scum class. So overall, I do think it was a really, really good year. It was a strong year, had a lot of hype. This game, I think, was in a pretty poor state until that Arbites launch. I think that Arbites coming out really made a lot of people wake up and realize that this game is quite full, like it's quite feature complete. Yes, there is a lot of work ahead to go, and there's a lot of ways that this game can grow, but I think that is something we could look at as a positive, as long as Fat Shark is willing to tackle those issues and make that growth where it needs to happen. Also in 2025, we made a focus on events, and this is something that I think is a potential strength that Fat Shark could be drilling into a little bit more. These events happened almost every month, and they offer additional resource gain for players who complete them. They offer little cosmetic benefits like dingle dangles on your weapons. They offer borders or the insignias that go next to your border when you're in the Morningstar. But a couple of them also offered some Aquilas, which I believe is a promotional thing that's happening whenever we get a new class release. So those events, I think, are, on the whole, very good. You can let me know, looking at this list of events here, which one is your favorite from this year, which one of the 11 is your favorite. If you say Rotten Armor, I will yeet you into the sun. The events, I think, bring a much-needed variety to games within Darktide, and what I would really encourage Fat Shark to look at is incorporating more of the basic fundamentals of these events into other game modes. Now that they exist in the code, it should be fairly easy to wrap in things such as Light the Fuse, or smuggled munitions or whatever it might be into the core experience for Auric, etc. Because in Auric and Damnation difficulties, or really all of the difficulties now, there are these mutators, these modifiers such as lights out or low visibility plus snipers or dog packs that have existed since pretty much the dawn of time. It would be great to also throw in Inferno, Waking Giants, Unrelenting Hordes in addition to those options, and you need not kind of make the pool more shallow. Go ahead and make there be twice as many options on the map pool for everyone to pick from, and add in some of these as flavor, because I certainly really do enjoy playing a good number of these, especially my favorite event of this year, which was Day of Atonement. I actually enjoyed playing that one a lot because it gave players who are playing normally on Auric or maybe even Damnation or lower difficulty a taste of what you can experience in Havoc with these crazy bosses that some of these Atonement Shrines could spawn. So I think that getting some of that stuff mixed into the core gameplay experience, or perhaps even adding some of this and in a buffed up form to Havoc in some way, shape, or form, would be a strong way to utilize existing assets. In addition to that, we had a couple of new weapons. We had a bolt gun and bolt pistol mark. Those both came out in that fall update, and then we had the Power Falchion, which also came out in that same update for the Veteran. So perhaps a little bit anemic in terms of weapons, perhaps way more anemic than most people were probably expecting. But you know, we can't beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. I'm really hoping that there are many more on the way this year. If I could make one comment about the entirety of 2025, if I could summarize 2025 and what the updates and the progress in the game was truly about, I would say that 2025 went down as the year of the class, of the player experience. Almost every single thing in Darktide's updates for 2025 was something to do with player classes. So we had reworks to weapons and retoolings and improvements to weapons. We had the talent tree reworks for all of the 4 base classes, and we had 2 new classes added as well. A lot of the existing weapons were overhauled, and we just had general quality of life things that were increasing the way that players can level their characters and experience the missions with those campaigns. We also had more HUD increases, additions to the HUD and stuff. So I think that this was really a character-focused year, and that's good, right? You need to make certain that the way that the players interface with the game is strong. They have lots of options on that front. There is definitely still work to go here, as you might have been seeing in my other content where I'm talking about how I would continue to rework and reshape these classes to get them into a better and more diverse spot. That can still be worked upon, but 2026, I am hoping that they are looking forward to making this the year of content, because I firmly believe that we do have enough in the way of class stuff. They could probably do keeping that on the side burner, but we need maps. We desperately need maps. We need a sort of a culmination to the Mortis Trials mode. I think for right now, my personal belief is the Mortis Trials game mode is kind of a developmental dead end, and it gives me hope that that is going to be converted into a Chaos Waste mode, which is much more in-depth and thought out and was a huge player draw for Vermintide 2. Speaking as a majorly addicted Chaos Waste player myself, I think that kind of mode would go absolutely hard in a game like this, and if they are looking to convert Mortis Trials into Mortis Operations or something like that, I think that could be very, very impressive and a good use of the resources they've invested so far. But we will have to see. Apart from, they did give us a little bit of a tease what we can expect in 2026 here, because as she is saying, we are not aiming to slow down in 2026, and to tease a bit, we can tell you the next class has already begun and been in the works for quite some time now. We can't wait to show you more when the time is right. But before that, we have another release though, so you'll have to wait a bit. So what this means is, first of all, before that, we will have another release, singular. So there will be one release and then this new class. So the new release is most likely to be coming out in March. This will be the first update of the year, the first quarterly update. And then we will have that new class. That new class will coincide with the release of the Arbites, right? It'll be the second major update of the year, which Arbites was announced at Warhammer Skulls. And this is very important to note because Warhammer Skulls is the single biggest sort of stage platform that Darktide is going to be able to get all year long, right? That is when the press and the eyes are going to be on you. So you want to make potentially your biggest announcement possible during that event. So this is going to be the class, the new class, and I would have to assume it's going to be one that Warhammer fans are very, very excited about. I am still firmly in the camp of AdMech, somewhere in there, because I think that would be an absolute game changer. That would bring in a tremendous pool of players from a Warhammer Skulls reveal. I am also really hoping that there are some additional things coming out, because as I was saying before, because this was the year of the class and we really went hard on classes, the other content in these updates was pretty anemic. So if you look at the, I know I've overused that word in this video here, but if you look at the content from the perspective of a player who didn't buy any of the new classes, you really didn't get much of anything. You got a rework to the Ogryn and a rework to the other classes, and then you've got an overhaul to the mission board and one new operation map. So if you didn't want to shell out for the premium DLCs here for the new classes, then you really didn't get very much of anything. I think it would be a very, very powerful statement if Fat Shark could give new content to everybody and throw this mission out at the same time to get players who are interested for the new game, as well as returning the new class, as well as players who are returning for more content, more ways to play the game. That is what I'm really hoping for this year. I have no idea what to expect for this first update of the year. I do fully believe they will continue to do a little bit of reworking and retooling in every update, because there is tons of existing things in the game. They can't just let them exist how they are. But I am really, really hoping for content in the form of maps or something to run through, some in-game content where it's not the same thing over and over and over again. So a Chaos Waste mode is at the top of my list, my most desired thing. Maps in general would be very hype. With the new maps they've been putting out, the most recent maps we've seen, such as the operations with No Man's Land, that map is beautiful and well designed, well thought out. So it gives me a lot of hope that they can continue to design these things very well. And I also really hope to see a lot of new weapons for more classes than just the newly released classes this year. But I think I've kept you guys here long enough on all this speculation. Thank you for tuning back in for the first SLOPTIDE news of 2026. I will see you guys very soon, hopefully as soon as next week, for more Slop. And until then, take it easy. Mr. out. Bye.